Hey everyone, this is Joey from the Wildwood Video Archive and welcome to another edition of Wildwood's Famous Rides. This is the web series that goes back in time to explore the history of those Wildwood rides that once graced the Wildwood Boardwalk. On this episode, we're going to head into the water parks to explore the history behind Shipwreck Shoals at Raging Waters. And yes, I know that this ride is still around, but it has a really interesting story that I want to share with you. So let's get started. In 1977, Morey's Piers had only consisted of two amusement parks, Morey's Piers, which is Surfside Pier today, and Mariner's Landing. Seeing the success of Wet n Wild, a water park brand that they eventually owned stock in, the Moreys decided to build two new water slide complexes on the back of their piers, called Wet n Wild. In 1978, these water slide complexes opened with a few different kinds of slides. It wouldn't be until 1985 when both complexes would become full-fledged water parks called Raging Waters. And yes, both of them were called Raging Waters, and boy did it cause some confusion for people. So to go ahead and make things easier for you and I, we're going to go ahead and post-date ourselves and just call Surfside Piers Ocean Oasis, because that's what its name is now, and Mariner's Landing Water Park is still Raging Waters, so we'll call that one Raging Waters. By the time the summer of 1993 rolled around, Morey's Piers had two impressive water parks, but they did get a little complaint from families. And that's because the kiddie sections that were there, which were mostly pretty much one kind of like waterfall over a mushroom and another one an actual mushroom, it was kind of too small. It's about 150 square foot. So that year, Morey's decided to fix this problem by designing two new kiddie sections to their water parks, one at Raging Waters and one at Ocean Oasis. Now obviously for this video, we're going to leave out the kiddie section HydroWorks, which was at Ocean Oasis. That year, the Morey team got to work on designing a new attraction for Raging Waters. While it might seem easy to add a new section to the water park, back then it was a large undertaking. You have to remember that at this time, Raging Waters ended right at the end of the Lazy River. To put it into context, the Pig Dog Bar, Camp Catastrophe, and Wrecker's Grill weren't there. The grill was where the lockers are today, and the main entrance was that ramp on the right-hand side of the ticket office. In order to make this new kiddie section, Morey's had a lot of work ahead of them. One thing that Morey's is always great at is their theming. So when it came to designing a new kiddie section, they wanted to have a great theme that tied in with the Wildwoods. This is where things get interesting, like I promised. They knew that they wanted a shipwreck theme for the kiddie section, so they turned to the history books to find one locally. For this, they turned to the Battle of Turtle Gut Inlet. The Battle of Turtle Gut Inlet was a very important early naval victory for the Continental Navy and the future of the father of the Navy, Captain John Barry. Yes, that Barry, the one that the bridge is named after. The battle took place on June 29, 1776, in Turtle Gut Inlet, which was a gap that would have separated today's Wildwood Crest. A side note, if you ever notice that sometimes the Wildwoods are known as 5 Mile Beach and Diamond Beach is known as 2 Mile Beach, it's because they were once separated barrier islands. They were filled in by the county too and made into one large barrier island. AKA, that's where you kind of get 2 Mile Landing from, the restaurant, which is my favorite, by the way. Love their crabs. Sorry, I lost my track. On Friday the 28th of June 1776, the brigantine Nancy was sighted off the coast of Cape May. She was bound for the Virgin Islands with a cargo of ammunitions for the Continental Army. As the Nancy came into view, an urgent message was sent to Captain John Barry of the Continental frigate Lexington, which was anchored near the mouth of the Delaware Bay. The message said that two British warships were pursuing the Nancy and that she needed help. The Lexington, along with the Continental frigate Wasp, set out to aid the Nancy, anchoring close to Cape May to wait out the night. In the early light of dawn, Captain Barry sighted the Nancy, heading for the shore with the British warships in pursuit. Barry had ordered the barges from the Lexington and the Wasp towards the Nancy. They found Nancy hard aground in Turtle Gut Inlet and under heavy fire from the British warships. Barry and his men boarded the Nancy and began the double operation of manning Nancy's guns to ward off the attack of the warships, while at the same time unloading the valuable cargoes of ammunition and storing it safely on the shore. The Nancy was taking heavy fire from enemy guns, but somehow managed to return enough fire to discourage a boarding party from the warship Kingfisher. Barry knew, however, that he and his men were already on borrowed time. Though only about 2/3 of the precious cargo of gunpowder had been unloaded, Captain Barry ordered the men to abandon ship.
Abandon the ship!
Before leaving, Barry ordered about 50 pounds of gunpowder to be poured on the ship's main sail and wrapped as tightly as possible. This would act as a fuse to the remaining gunpowder below deck. With their men safely in a boat alongside, the two captains took down the flag and set fire to the mainsail and jumped overboard. Meanwhile, the longboats from the Kingfisher had taken the lowering of the flag as a sign of surrender and closed in quickly to board the ship. The first British soldiers who reached the Nancy raised in cheer of victory as they climbed aboard, but at that moment the gunpowder had exploded with a roar, and according to record, was heard 40 miles away in Philadelphia. After the explosion, the British gave up on the Nancy, as at this point nothing was really left of it. Thus, by noon on June 29th, the Battle of Turtle Gut Inlet had ended. Thank you to the Wildwood Crest Historical Museum for that information. So how did Morey's incorporate this story into a kiddie water park attraction? Well, Morey's went ahead and recreated the battle itself. First, they would build a ship that looked like it was grounded. The boat itself looks like it was getting pounded by cannonballs, with a broken main mast, ripped decks, and holes in its hull. And what's actually interesting is that the boat itself is actually named the Nancy. Surrounding the boat are water cannons that are portraying the British warships firing at the Nancy. If you keep moving to the left, you'll notice that there is some kind of rowboat as a kid slide on the left-hand side. This is actually the tender that the Nancy crew had used to go ahead and bring the cargo from the ship to land. Every single kind of boat at that time had one, so they can go ahead and tender people from the boat to shore, or in this case, gunpowder and other kind of ammunition. For those who actually go on cruise ships today, you'll notice that whenever a cruise ship's at a port that can't actually go to a dock, they use small tenders to tender people from the boat to the shore. And that's sort of the same concept that was used back then. The last connection I can go ahead and compare with you is that if you look in the deeper pool where the rope net is at, you'll notice that there are pieces of the ship kind of just floating there. It's my belief that maybe that was after the explosion and that it's the British soldiers trying to climb their way back onto the British Kingfisher. So as you can see, there are a ton of connections from the Battle of Turtle Gut Inlet. I do know years ago there used to be signs in the kiddie area explaining the battle, but I feel like Morey's Piers probably threw them away after they had faded over time. The new kiddie section officially opened in the summer of 1994, and I was able to go ahead and find a brochure talking about the new water park sections, and this is what it said. Now, there were more ways to have fun in the water than ever before at Raging Waters. New for 94, Hydra Works and Shipwreck Shoals. Shipwreck Shoals boasts a sunken ship, a fort, slide, and water shooting cannons. Since 1994, not much has changed at Shipwreck Shoals. They had repainted and repaired the floor a few times, and this past year they did a full refurbishment on the section. Morey's was able to install a new floor and repaint the area, including a new paint job on the ship. What's really cool is that the floor now actually looks like the ship was beached, with different colors of the tile showing a deeper section to a lighter section to there being sand right by the boat. Before this, it was just small little rubber pieces melted together, and I would say, personally, I like that this is here instead of what it was before. But I want to know what you think. Did you know the history of the themed area? Did you even know that this section had a theme, let alone it be connected to the Wildwoods? Comment below. Thank you again for watching our video. If you want to see a ride on this series, comment below the ride and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. And I want to send a special thank you to everyone who's on our Patreon page. You too can get rewarded by supporting this channel. All you need to do is click the link in this description and check out the rewards. Thank you once again for watching. I'm Joey, and I'll see you on the beach. See ya!